I recently attended a garden expo hosted by the Master Gardeners of OC. If you're not familiar with Master Gardeners, they are trained volunteers through the state university that share science-based information to the public about gardening and pest control. Let's hear from these Master Gardeners on some great tips on gardening. So I'm here with Mr. Bill Brooks, here with Christina, here with Dee Dee, Chris Bonner, Lori Minoski. We are here with
Karen Morgan.
What's the most common mistake you see beginner gardeners make, and how can they avoid it?
Okay, number one is, I think overall, is watering. Usually it's overwatering, but it's also underwatering. And so the way to not make it is know what you're planting and know the water requirements, and the plants that you group them according to their water needs. That goes with the ornamental plants as well as your vegetables. So you want to group together what needs the most water and what needs the least water.
Overwatering can be such a big issue with houseplants because people think like, oh, well, you know, a little bit of water here, a little bit of water there. And, you know, what's happening? Why is my plant looking not that great? You know, so they think sometimes with water, you're showing the plant some love, but sometimes that's not what they need so often. So it's really just trying to see what the plant really needs, if it's maybe cutting back on the watering and seeing how that goes. And sometimes it's okay to have some plants go a little bit on the drier side, and it's not going to immediately die on you. And so it's okay. The best thing is just, you know, kind of being aware of looking at the signs of what the plant is kind of telling you, because you'll get signs from that.
I think the most common mistake would be not knowing the conditions a certain plant needs. People might say, I love ferns, I'm going to go buy ferns, and then they stick them in the middle of a hot, dry garden, right? So not knowing what the plant needs in order to thrive.
One of the most common mistakes is loving your plants too much. Understanding the correct care, like this little plant here, you want to know what kind of water it needs. You want to know that you are going to take this and plant it at the appropriate height. Don't sink it too deep. Don't set it too tall. And just making sure that you know that that plant's needs could be different than this plant.
I would say the biggest mistake for beginning gardeners is just trying to grow a plant in the wrong place. So a plant that needs full sun and you plant it in the shade. A plant that needs shade and you plant it in the full sun. And you kill plants that way. And so really it's finding out what plant is the right place. And that gets back to figuring out where you want to put a plant first before you go buy the plant. And nurseries have people there to help you there too. And so just finding the right plant for the right place.
My focus today was on native plants, so I'll talk about that. And the most common mistake is overwatering. Natives are evolved for our dry summers, and people want to treat them like an East Coast plant, and people tend to overwater them very commonly.
Oh wow, that's very surprising. A lot of people said overwatering. What are your must-grow summer plants for home gardens and why?
Well, tomatoes are a must-grow summer. So I do like the tomatoes. I am a big California native guy, and unfortunately in California, a lot of our natives go drought deciduous in the summer months. So a lot of them die back. But I would say my favorite summer thing that I always look forward to is tomatoes and citrus as well.
Lately I've been getting really into California natives. So California poppies. They're so easy to grow. Last year I planted some, and this year I didn't plant some because they reseeded themselves. So they're really, really easy. Didn't really have to worry about them, and they're absolutely beautiful, and they're good for, you know, native pollinators, and so it's just wonderful. You don't really have to do much with them. So it's great.
Strawberries.
Ah, my favorite.
Yeah, ever-bearing strawberries, I would say, because they will give you fruit all through the season.
Tomatoes are always so much fun. And we call tomatoes the gateway vegetable, right? Because once you get started, it usually leads to more. A lot of peppers, and people grow squash, and now it's time to start thinking about your pumpkins and some of your fall vegetables and like that. So Lots of good things to grow at this time of year.
The most popular home garden plant is the home tomato. And that's because home tomatoes taste better than anything you can get.
Absolutely.
So I'm agnostic on tomatoes. I do heirlooms, I do hybrids, I do cherries. But I will tell you the best tomato is a orange cherry tomato called Sun Gold. So scientifically, the smaller the tomato, the more concentrated the sugar. I call it gardener candy. So when I'm gardening, I go by, I'll just pick one and I'll reward myself for my hard work by having a Sun Gold tomato.
Any native that's adapted to our climate. Another really good native is buckwheats because they attract pollinators. And we're trying to encourage more bees and butterflies and other pollinators.
Yes.
All of those are must grow.
Yes. How do you deal with limited space or tricky conditions like poor soil or too much shade?
So again, researching the plants that you want to try to get shade tolerant plants, and also looking at the soil types and amending the soil. So before you start mixing in a lot of compost, that'll break up your clay, and that'll really create more of the sandy loam or the clay loam that we want. A lot of people think clay is bad. Clay holds on to water better than any other soil type, but we don't want it compact. So that's kind of a key.
Make it fluffy.
Make it fluffy.
What I like to do is I like to just use pots. And so with pots, it's a lot easier to kind of move plants around and find a place where they really enjoy it best. Because sometimes I set them somewhere thinking, oh, it's gonna be beautiful here. It's gonna be magnificent. And then after a while, it just does not like it there. So if the pot is just so much easier to move around. And also if you have like less space, you can be putting pots all together so that it's not everywhere.
Limited space. I have taught a number of classes where we plant tomatoes in 5-gallon buckets. They now have dwarf variety tomatoes, and you can do them in 3-gallon containers. We're doing a class at the end of April at UCI with the students, and they're gonna plant in a grow bag and take it back to their dorm room with their own little tomato. Poor soil, the best thing you can do for poor soil is use either pots or raised beds. Soil is really the basis of having a good garden and having a good crop. So the best thing you can do is invest in your soil.
So the poor soil is easy just with raised beds. And so we've got famously difficult clay soil here in South Orange County. Building a box with no bottom, filling it up with planting mix, and now it's easy and the plants are happy. The no sun, the only way around that is to grow stuff that doesn't require sun. So unfortunately, that means if you're trying to grow vegetables, if you don't have at least 4 or 5 hours of full sun a day, you're just not going to grow many vegetables, and you just have to be happy with what God will let you grow, where you do have.
Right plant, right place.
Right plant, right place.
Yeah,
Perfect.
really.
Do you have any tips for beginners starting their first compost bin?
So to do compost correctly, you need space. So you can buy different kinds of small composters, home composters, even one that work with electricity and do things fast. So you can try that, but you need at least a 3-foot by 3-foot space. So if you're in an apartment or a condo, then you might want the electric kind of composter. But 3-foot by 3-foot, you want to have the right browns to green ratio, and you want to turn your compost bin.
I went to my city. My city offers a compost bin, all self-contained, $20 in Orange County and Anaheim. And it was very easy to start, and it was very quick to decompose, break down, and I could use it in my garden. That same, like if I started it, say, in a winter, I could use it by summer.
Compost is so important because soil is a live, moving, breathing thing. And having that bacteria and all the good nematodes and all the things that are going on and active in your soil is important. So one of the things that I would say, a simple place to start is to save your kitchen scraps. Figure out, we've got a great handout on compost and how to make Start small and get your confidence up with your compost so that you can get going and learn. And if you can't compost, I'm not a good composter, go to your landfills, because the Green Waste Reduction Act is making sure that compost is available for gardeners free from the landfills.
Love it.
That's where our green bin goes.
I love it.
You can't make enough compost to actually have enough to use in your own garden. So now by law, everything, all of our waste is composted.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do it. Just put everything in the green waste bin, and then they give it away for free.
Yeah.
Or they buy it cheap. And so my tip is, unless this is really something you like to do,
Yeah.
don't. Have somebody else do it and get the free stuff for the cheap stuff.
Yeah.
I used to have a compost bin. It was amazing. Like a lot of things with gardening, people overthink these things. A compost bin is very simple. Put a bunch of green waste in a bin and let it do its thing. Turn it once a week. That's it. It's really very simple. Keep refilling it as it goes down. And I use my compost as a mulch, and I'm a big believer in mulch.
Perfect.
It keeps down the weeds, it keeps the water, doesn't dry out as fast, it makes things look nicer.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
mulch.
Mulch, mulch, mulch. Summer is coming.
Yes.
What advice would you give to someone who feels discouraged after a failed garden attempt?
There is no such thing as not having garden failure. It's just part of doing it, and it probably means you either overwatered first, underwatered, or had the plant in the wrong spot. So it's right plant, right location, and you just have to try and experiment. But before you buy, rather than going to the garden center, just go, I love that. Do your research and look at if the amount of light and the soil types that you have will work for that plant.
I would say don't get too discouraged, because just because something happened, it could have just been a one-off kind of thing. You know, part of the thing about gardening is really getting that experience.
Yeah.
And you won't be able to get that experience unless you really are able to keep on moving and keep on growing. So maybe if that one plant didn't grow, then maybe you can try something different. And maybe when you have more experience, then you can always go back to that one if you really loved it.
Even when you seemingly do everything right, things go wrong. You don't, sometimes we know what it is. We could say user error, or the weather disagreed, or a little critter, maybe a bunny hopped through the garden and ate all the lettuce. No, don't be discouraged. Try again.
It's not how many times you fail, it's how many times you get up and try again. Sometimes we have a tendency to want to do, so many plants, and you get so excited and you buy so much. Start small. Start with something that you can control. Get your confidence. And I'll tell you, I had my tomato seedlings at home. One of the cats knocked one over, the little seedlings, and I was so sad. I picked it up, I gave it some water, and they're going. So don't give up. It's so much fun, and you just love the things that you can do out in the garden, and it's so great for your mental health.
Hang out with other gardeners, because what you're going to discover is all gardeners fail, all gardeners have an issue, and that's just part of gardening, that's part of life. And as long as you're learning from what went wrong and figuring out why did it not work out. Most problems are gardener problems. Most problems are too much water or not enough water. And so just don't give up, keep trying, and then talk to people. Master gardeners, we love to help home gardeners. That's what we do.
Call the Master Gardener program and find out what you may have done wrong.
Perfect.
And try again.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, that was so much fun.
We got some amazing tips from Master Gardeners of OC. I hope you guys learned a lot. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with your garden friends. Thanks so much for taking the time to hang out with us. Bye, see you next time.